Interest rates are on the rise. The average sale price in the Portland metro area dropped. Snow stomped our coming listings, driving the inventory of homes available to buyers down, while buyer demand remained resilient. It's perplexingly strong. I'm Ron Milligan with RE/MAX Select here in Portland's Pearl District, and as usual, I have the weekly market statistics for the Portland metro area, Southwest Washington down to Oregon, and all of the bedroom communities. After we run through the weekly numbers, I'll also have an update for some national foreclosure numbers, including some Portland local foreclosure numbers. First up is the inventory of homes available for buyers to purchase. The inventory of available homes dropped by 3%, and here you can see that part of the problem, I think, is that we just didn't get a lot of new listings. The number of new listings was down 28% versus the previous week, at a time when we should expect to see that number starting to rise as we move more into our spring buying season. Cause of that was likely the snow. The snow fell. A lot of agents and sellers just thought it was a bad idea to list their homes on Thursday and Friday, which is traditionally the big listing days. And that's exactly when the snow fell, and probably decided to postpone their listings until this week. So we'll see if that happens this week, if we get this crush of listings. Those folks who wanted to list last week, plus those who are planning on listing this week, hitting the market all at once on Thursday and Friday. Obviously, I'll let you know next week if that's the case. Price reductions were down 21%. We've been seeing price reductions kind of low. And that could be a combination of a couple things. One is the snow hit, and sellers who were planning on doing price reductions just prior to the weekend decided to hold off for the following weekend. We'll see if that's the case or not next week. The other part of that is we've just been seeing a suppressed number of price reductions recently. I think part of that has to do with agents and sellers being more educated on what the market is actually doing and pricing their homes a little more appropriately to the market so that they don't have to do the price reductions. The thing that was a little surprising is that buyer demand was really strong, even with this crazy snow. You know, my expectation is that buyers weren't going to be out looking at properties, which was going to mean that they weren't going to be writing offers and homes wouldn't be going under contract. But you can see here that the buyer demand only decreased by 0.1% versus the previous week. And I've got no explanation for that. The number of homes that sold was way down as well, 20% lower, but do keep in mind that last week was a holiday week. Monday was President's Day, so the title companies and the escrow and the county were closed so that deals couldn't be recorded during that time. So the average sale price did drop this week versus the previous week, is down 2.1%. And then if we compare this week to roughly the same time period last year, the number is actually down 6.1%. If you've been following along with the videos, we've been seeing numbers for a couple of weeks just barely in the black. Versus the previous year, like 0.5% higher one week. The following week, 0.9% higher. Then they started to drop about 2 weeks ago. We went back into the red, minus 3.1% versus last year at this time. And then finally this week we're looking at minus 6.1% in the average sale price versus the previous year, roughly the same time period. That looks like it might be starting to form a trend, so we'll see how that one goes, if it bottoms out or maybe if it rallies. The foreclosure numbers for the Portland metro area still seem to be pretty stable. We saw an increase of one additional bank-owned property on the market. This is active pending and short sale pending status. And the number of short sales, so those homes that are pre-foreclosure status, increased also by one. Looking at the notices of default for this last week, how many did we see? Wasn't a ton. I saw a total of like 33 notices recorded, but that included trustees sale and notices of sale. But the number of notices of default, which is that first step in the foreclosure process, it was only about 11 for the metro area. And that's the metro area not including Washington, so that's just Portland metro area on the Oregon side. I did see some national numbers surrounding the foreclosure rate. These came from the National Real Estate Post, and these are numbers for January. And what they reported is that due to a stronger than expected jobs market, that the number of underperforming loans from December to January actually decreased by 10% in the national delinquency rate. And then if you're comparing January of this year to January of last year, it was a decrease of about 15%. At the same time, foreclosure starts did see an increase in the year-over-year numbers, but still remain 37% below pre-pandemic levels. Also, active foreclosures were still 20% higher this year versus the same time period last year, but still almost 20% below pre-pandemic norms. And as I mentioned earlier, the numbers of foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, and foreclosures in the Portland metro area still seems to be relatively stable and relatively low when we're looking at what's on the market versus the nearly 6,000 listings active and pending that we have right now. If you remember last week, we talked about interest rates. It looked like they might have hit a peak at 6.375 and they dropped down just for one day to 6.25. Since then, rates have started to rise again. They went back up to that 6.375 number for a couple of days. And today, this morning at 10:15, I saw that Wells Fargo was actually advertising rates at 6.5% for the 30-year fix. I suspect that these higher interest rates are going to have a chilling effect on buyer demand, and it's going to slow down the number of new pendings and the number of showings that we're seeing. And as always, we'll just keep an eye on it and let you know what we see. If you are in the market to buy, keep in mind that there are ways to kind of work your way around the interest rates, have sellers buy down your interest rate for you. Or if you happen to be a first-time home buyer, the Oregon Bond Program just announced that their Rate Advantage program is locked in at 5%. With that program, you would have to have a 3.5% down payment, but gift funds are allowed. And then you would also have to have your closing costs. But in this case, we could actually get the seller to cover those closing costs. So if you do fit the criteria for the Oregon Bond Program and you are sick and tired of paying ever increasing rents and paying down someone else's mortgage, let me know and I can hook you up with the right mortgage broker and get you on the path to home ownership with this sweet Oregon Bond Program. So that's a wrap for this week, except to say thank you so much for watching the video to the very end. I truly appreciate it. I would appreciate even more if you could give me a thumbs up, or if you know of someone who might find this information helpful, please share this video with them. I would love that. Keep in mind, as I say every week, all real estate is local, so if you're thinking about what's going on in your neck of the woods, just reach out to me. I'm happy to share what I know and do a bit of research for you. And we'll see you next week.